Welcome to Vienna Tysons TV, a program by the Tysons Regional Chamber of Commerce, your link to opportunity.
I am Sean Connaughton. I am the Secretary of Transportation for the Commonwealth of Virginia. I'd like to welcome you all to this ribbon cutting for the opening of the 495 Express Lanes. It's a great pleasure to be here as someone who has lived in the Washington region for almost 30 years and has been stuck many times on the Beltway. I'm definitely looking forward to being out there and have the opportunity to have a much quicker, much more certain, and much more friendly drive in and around this region. So it is really personally a great pleasure, but obviously a great pleasure being here from the Commonwealth to be here at this event.
As I noted, it started over a decade ago, this project. That's how long it takes to get from planning an idea to actually getting people out on the road. And I appreciate all the work that was done, particularly by my predecessors, to find the solution to actually make this work. You know, as I looked at the history, somebody said that expanding the Beltway was just not a possible task, given the multiple challenges. It would consume VDOT's entire budget, I think some would say, at the time. It would take an immense amount of property. And yet the private sector came up with this concept of a high occupancy toll lane that would help to streamline some of the improvement, minimize the impacts, create new HOV options, and that new thinking really is what leads us here today. So again, I appreciate very much the innovation of the private sector with these ideas, something that's being modeled in other places around the state. I think these public-private partnerships do hold a key to leverage scarce resources that we've got at the state and federal level to build major transportation projects. The PPTA that we have here today was a very successful partnership between state and federal and local governments and Transurban and Fluor that will provide this significant new transportation asset for Northern Virginia. So what came out of that deal was a $2 billion extraordinarily complex project that, as I mentioned, is being finished early and on budget, which is why they were chosen, among other things, to be the contractor of choice now for the 95 Hot Lanes project. It's the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say, that'll connect the Mixing Bowl, hopefully as far south, ultimately as Fredericksburg, with similar hot lanes, which will be a tremendous resource for this entire region. That project is now let, and the dirt is moving on that as well. And I won't be here for that ribbon cut. Can you get that done before I leave office, by the way, next year? That would really be nice to be back, but that's going to be tremendous when that is done. Okay, very good. I want to also salute the many folks that are responsible for making this an incredibly safe project. I think the safety record far exceeds industry standards now for what has been accomplished, and that's, I think, a combination of credit not only for our great contractor, Transurban and Fluor, but also the Virginia State Police, the Fairfax County Police, and so many of you that worked on that to keep people safe while those barrels and the yellow tape and everything else was out there. Also, you should commend the residents in the nearby neighborhoods for their profound patience that they exhibited. You either complain about construction or congestion. We'd rather have them complain about construction. And there certainly was some of that as this project came to fruition. Community groups also came together to do great work to preserve the environment, restore habitats along the way, along the site. Regional employers also, I think, were very instrumental in making sure that they kept their employees informed, that they utilized telework programs to be able to allow people to work from home. We had a telework tax credit passed in the General Assembly, and all that, I think, helped to keep people a little bit off the roads during this time of construction. And of course, great work being done by our local officials in Fairfax and Loudoun and Arlington and Alexandria, many of whom represented here, working together to see this project to fruition. So I thank all of you for the role that you played along with VDOT and Secretary Connaughton at the state, to be able to get this project done. So I'm excited. You see pavement, I see jobs. And as we all know, road construction does an immense amount of good to put people back to work. During the heart of this economic crisis over the last 4 years, the 495 Hot Lanes project pumped more than $3.5 billion into Virginia's economy. A stunning achievement through the course of this project is as follows. The project put more small, women, and minority-owned contractors to work than any transportation project in the history of Virginia. Now, that's pretty significant. In fact, more than 200 Virginia-based contractors worked to deliver improvements to the Beltway. So we appreciate, Scott, all that subcontracting you did to put Virginia businesses and Virginia people to work during the course of the project. So starting this weekend, these lanes will be open. That is tremendously exciting and good news for traffic-weary Northern Virginia commuters that they'll be able to see this new project put in place. Travelers will now have an option to pay a reasonable toll if they want to travel a little faster along this reliable route. New bus routes will also soon be in effect that'll be running in and out of Tysons and the surrounding area. For Fairfax County as well, there's some other positives. New sound walls are in place for the neighborhoods. New ramps have begun to ease gridlock at the 66 Exchange. And this is quite astounding as well. I think attributing perhaps to some of the cost of the project, and that is more than 50 brand new bridges now span the Beltway. That's a lot of concrete and a lot of engineering that will save taxpayers millions of dollars in what would have been needed to refurbish those old bridges. But it is not just the new lanes, but it's also the new overpasses and bridges that will make this a remarkable project. Virginia was able to deliver this project by leveraging about $1.5 billion in private equity along with the state and some of the federal revenues that went into the project. And I think this is, like I said, is a model for how these deals can get done. We have another 95 Hot Lanes project. We've got several others in Hampton Roads that are all modeled off this very successful 495 Express Lanes project. In fact, we have established a Virginia Office of Public-Private Partnerships, and are you looking and challenging all of our agencies to look at this as a model for using scarce resources to leverage some of this big infrastructure projects. So I want to say thanks to all of you for the role you've played. For the legislators that are here, I want to say thanks, but we're just starting. There's a lot more that needs to be done. I'm going to ask you to do some things this session without fail and without delay, to do what's necessary to address this maintenance deficit and to make sure that we can continue to have these major projects to go forward in Virginia and preserve the Commonwealth's Transportation Construction Trust Fund. So again, congratulations, VDOT, Transurban, Fluor, and all of you. This is a big step for Virginia, a big step for Northern Virginia. We want to see this economic engine continue to grow. We want to see continue to hear the cash registers ring up here in Northern Virginia. I think this Hot Lanes project will go a long way towards doing that. It gives me yet a better story to tell when I travel either abroad or to places like New York or California and tell them why they ought to move their businesses from their states to Virginia. They obviously are concerned about quality of life, and having a major transportation option like the 495 Express Lanes is a major new selling point now in bringing business and jobs to Virginia. So job well done. Let's keep it up. God bless you.
During World War I, the great American humorist Will Rogers called a press conference and announced that he had the solution to the German U-boat problem that was sinking shipping across the Atlantic. And the press said, well, what's your solution? They said, well, I'm going to heat up the oceans to about 500 degrees Fahrenheit, forcing those U-boats to surface, and then we'll shoot them down to surface shipping. And of course, the next question from an inquiring press was, but how are you going to do that? To which Will Rogers said, I'm just the idea guy. In transportation, there's a lot of idea guys. But actually getting something done, getting something big done, is a huge challenge, as so many people in this room know. It requires political cooperation across the aisle. 3 governors, including our current governor, Governor McDonnell, have worked hard to make today happen. and lots of local officials and other state officials across party aisles to create a new model for how we create infrastructure in Virginia. It's not the only model, but it is a very important model. I'm proud of the fact that it's very substantial federal funds went into this project, including something called TIFIA funding, over $600 million in TIFIA funding, and then a very considerable direct appropriation as well as part of that partnership. And I think that's really important because the federal government increasingly is playing a great role here in Northern Virginia, especially in improving our infrastructure. $65 million of federal money completed the Fairfax County Parkway after 30 years. It's finally done. Federal funding, of course, created the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, $2 billion. Federal funding is helping us complete Rail to Dulles Phase 1. If you go out this door, you're going to see it is almost complete with $900 million of accelerated federal funding. And the good news is we have a Secretary of Transportation working with the McDonnell administration and the congressional delegation to try to make sure that TIFIA funding, which helped this project, is going to substantially help us in Phase 2 of Rail to Dulles. What today is really all about is creating choices for our commuters. We're never going to solve congestion. Will Rogers, there's no solution as such to congestion. As the governor said, in many ways, congestion is an external piece of evidence of our economic success. There are lots of parts of Virginia who would love some of our congestion. But we can create choices for our commuters. This is a new choice. You don't have to use the hot lanes, but when you need them or when you want them, it's going to be there, adding capacity to the Beltway, the largest expansion of the Beltway since its original construction. And it goes hand in hand, as the governor said, with telework. It's going to go hand in hand with the largest transit expansion in the United States, Rail to Dulles, and of course, other infrastructure improvements. This project, we were able in the public sector to piggyback on, as the governor indicated. 58 bridges, roads, and ramps got improved in an ancillary part of this project, $300 million, that we couldn't afford in the public sector on our own. So this is a real win-win. And of course, the evidence of Governor, of just how important transportation is, as you said, is how many people are in this room. Transportation is a big deal in Northern Virginia. We care about it, and we're doing something about it. So congratulations to everybody who made today possible. It's a great model of bipartisan cooperation. I hope some folks in Washington are taking note. God bless.